If you're a fan of gardening with the moon, here are some tasks you can do in February. For others, those who don't believe in the moon, these tasks are still valid. As a reminder, the lunar calendar is divided into 4 influences. You have fruit days, root days, flower days, and leaf days. I would still like to remind you that the tasks for February are almost identical to those for January, with few small additions. On fruit days, plant fruit trees, sow tomatoes indoors, prune fruits. Start the first sowings of tomatoes in the warmth. And it's also a good time to prune small fruits. The currants, the black currants, you remove the branches that are lying on the ground and thin out the inside of the bushes. My tip is that once you've finished pruning your small fruits, a butterfly should be able to flutter through the branches. Let's move on to root days. Last month, if you followed the tips for gardening with the moon, you sowed radishes, carrots, and turnips in a warm bed. So don't forget, starting now, to lift the frames every morning and close them in the evening. Similarly, for the tunnels, you need to open them once a day. If you live in mild regions, sow colored onions and white onions. Everywhere else, plant round, half-long, and long shallots. A little tip: if you have very wet soil, plant the shallots on a small mound. Let's move onto flower days. Divide the snowdrop bulbs once the flowers have faded. Take cuttings of the geraniums in the warmth. Transplant cauliflower seedlings into containers in full light, or in pots depending on the space you have, and place them in full light. So, a tip: just make clumps and transplant them one by one. Cauliflowers. So, a little tip for leaf days: you should renew the sowings you did in January. You continue to sow butterhead lettuces under a frame or a tunnel, and then the salads you sowed in January. You transplant them now. It's the perfect time to sow spinach for a spring harvest. Under cover, of course, and to wrap up, start adding fertilizer to the glass plant. And here's a little tip: when you start giving fertilizer to the glass plant, you can practically add it every time, as long as you divide the manufacturer's dose by 4. Find more videos to understand the influences of the moon, the lunar calendar on Rustica de Far. And in number 1, Exceptional and Special, the Moon of the Rustica magazine.